come and talk to us today about being an LPN. Dorothy, how long have you been an LPN?
51 years.
Wow! Wow!
Yeah. What made you want to become an LPN?
Well, when I was in high school, we had different clubs that we could join, and one of them was Future Nurses Club. And we did volunteer work at hospitals and nursing homes and that, and that's when I started to feel that that's what I wanted to do.
And up until you went to nursing school, had anyone in your family gone to college or done anything like that?
No, I was the first one to graduate from high school. And in our church, larger church, there was even there, no one had gone on behind high school. So I was the first one graduating from high school, and then a lot to do that.
First one to graduate from high school out of your family of 7 children, 6 children, and then the first one to go to college. Wow.
Wow.
6 children? She has 6 children, and she's one of 6.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So, where did you get your training? Our students here going through this program, how did you get your training?
I lived in a nurse's dorm at St. Joseph Mercy Hospital, and there was probably 30 of us in our class, and 3/4 of them lived in the dorm. And we went in March, and then the next year we graduated in March, so it was a full year of living in the dorms and working in the hospital and having our training. The women that were married and lived off campus, they would come every day to the school and to the hospital. But the single women lived in the dorm.
And what kind of hospital were you working in, or what kind of the program was it?
It was St. Joseph Mercy Hospital.
So was it Catholic program?
Yes.
Catholic hospital, and the nuns ran the hospital, kind of?
The administration, yes.
Okay.
Did you pay for that?
Yes.
How much was it then?
This you won't believe, because before I came, I was looking through my materials that I saved through the years, when it was 50 years ago. I had my paper that my parents paid for me to go to the school, and so I did see that, and I looked at it, and it was $250.
Oh my God.
And
It was a lot then.
It was plenty,
that was
plenty.
living, and all of the expenses.
It was plenty money
And
at
that
that
was,
time.
yes, it
Yeah.
was for
Like
my
million.
parents who had a family of 6, to sacrifice and have me going to, yes.
And pay for your school?
And that was, that was my meals, and, everything was included in that. That's what.
I wish it was this
And that, the sacrifices that my parents had for that 1 year of training is what has helped me through these 50 years to be a nurse.
Are you still working as
No,
an LPN now?
I'm not right now. I'd love to be, but I.
You retired, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I would love to be doing some private duty nursing, or 1 or 2 days, and that's what I've been able to do in raising my 6 children. To be able to go back to work whenever I wanted to, or whenever I needed to.
It was private duty?
I have done private duty nursing too, yes.
How much should you get paid then?
Oh.
Some of the, I'm a saver. I do a lot of paperwork and stuff, and I think some of them were started out. It was, $7 an hour or something. That some of the when I first started, and that but the pay scale, it's it isn't necessarily the pay scale. It's the ability to go and to be able to see where you can go and you can work. And I could go back and I could work part-time. I could work in the hospital. I could work in a nursing home. I could work in a doctor's office. And doing part-time or full-time when the need was there and I could do it.
So flexibility was one of the main things that you really found was great being an
Yes.
LPN. You had a lot of
Yes.
flexibility. Where you could work, how often you could work, how many hours, that kind of thing. What was your first job as an LPN? What did you do?
Well, when I was in training, we would do rotations in OB/GYN and that, and my first day in rotation on the OB floor in labor and delivery, they set a record that day for deliveries. There was 11 in this one shift, and so I got to go in and just really start working, and that's where I guess I started loving to work in the nursery and in the labor and delivery, and that's one of the ones that I worked with throughout the years was in that area.
So instead of having a nurse to work alongside you as a brand new nurse, you just got thrown in delivering babies because it was so busy.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And what are some of the different kinds of areas that you worked in as an LPN? You said you worked in a hospital, in labor and delivery. What are some other areas that you've worked?
I worked on a med-surg floors. I worked in nursing homes. I worked in teen mother programs through the school districts where my family was raised. I taught in the teen mother program for 7 years. I was the school nurse, and then I set up the nursery when the girls would have their babies, the teen mothers would have their babies. They would bring them to school, and I would teach them and train them how to take care of their babies in the nursery, and then help them set up the nursery so that they could run the nursery and be part of taking care of their children while they're in school too. And then I taught them also child care and development, and then I taught anatomy and physiology, and I worked with the Red Cross. They provided me with hospital beds and linens and blood pressure cuffs and all that I would need to train the girls that took my classes to be a home health aide, and they got their certificates through the Red Cross to become a home health aide. And a couple of my girls that I had during the 7 years that I worked in the community ed program went on, and one became a nurse anesthetist, and the other one became an RN. And so, and besides that, they became, they had the training to take care of their children and themselves because of being taught the care that they could have in being an aide.
So this program, I don't know if you caught this program was for teenage girls that would have been kicked out of school because they were pregnant. And this gave them an option where they could go to school, bring their babies, finish high school. They learned how to take care of their babies. They learned how to take care of themselves. They learned how to get a job and become a home health aide. And otherwise, where would their lives have been? Teenage mothers, no job, where would their lives have gone? And as a result of this program, at least 2 of them went on. One became a nurse anesthetist, one became an RN. But they all graduated from high school, which would not have been an option for them otherwise, which is a wonderful thing. And I think you were telling me you also did well baby checks on the baby.
Yes. Yes.
What happened one time when you were doing that?
Well, we used to, you would be in the hospital for when you had the delivery, you'd be there 3 to 5 days. And then the girls, when they would come home from the hospital and have the baby, they would bring it right away to the school so we could all see it. And checking the babies, I would go through a well baby check with them so that they could see what they would. And in checking the circumference of the head and that, I don't know if you've ever heard about a hydrocephalic or water. I found one baby that his head was measuring more than what it should, and we took it and had it, and it did have to have a shunt put in. And so that baby was, I think, kind of saved because of somebody that was able to look at it and to check it. But otherwise, maybe it wouldn't have been caught in time to have something taken care of. And another time was one of the girls, she was just coughing after delivery, and didn't have a cold and that, and so I was talking to her, and I decided, I think I need to take her to see a doctor, and so I took her, and she had a blood clot in her lung, and so it was, for me, it was a real close relationship that I got to have with these girls, and that was just, one of the, or two of the things that happened through the 7 years. There was quite a few.
So, and when I was listening to you all share your stories, that first week in class, quite a few mentioned you wanted to either go back to Haiti or be involved in the community, kind of give back, help in the areas that, the areas where you live. And I thought this was a great example of being an LPN. She had a huge impact on these teenage girls that otherwise really had no future. And look at the difference that she was able to make because of her LPN training in their lives. And you had those same kind of opportunities too. She was creative with it. She went and found a community education program where she could use her LPN. There's all kinds of opportunities out there today. It's not just I'm relegated to a nursing home, which is a good option. People need help in nursing homes too, but you have a lot of opportunities available to you. So I thought that was really great.
The nursing home was the last where I worked was in a nursing home, and when I was in training, I thought as a 18, 19-year-old woman, no way would I want to work in a nursing home. But it was one of the most, I think they all are rewarding, but the relationship that I could have with the residents in the nursing home was very meaningful to me too at that time. I enjoyed that too.
What's the biggest change you think you've seen in nursing from the beginning, from when you started to now? What would you see some of the biggest changes?
The charting, the computers, everybody on the computer and everything done electronically. But that's good and bad in that when you have to read doctor's orders and pen scratching that you can't understand, to be able to have it on the computer where you can read it, and that helps cut down on mistakes, and it is, I imagine, more efficient. That's something that I missed out on a lot is the computer, using the computer and your charting and that.
Do you think that you have more or less help or more or less responsibility now than you did? How do you do that as an LPN?
More responsibilities now. When I did not, when I first started, we did not pass med. Pharmacology was not part of it. I had to go back to school, and I had in-hospital training and was passing med, and then I had to go back for certification and take classes and do that. But that was, I don't know how many years later that they had the LPNs for passing med then. But before, they did not even take the pharmacology class.
The RN?
The RN.
So what you do as the LPN at this time?
You were hands-on care of the patient. Yes. Yes.
They did not
And
have
the
CNA at
treatment.
this time? They did not have CNA?
Aides. We called them aides. Yes, and orderlies. We had aides and orderlies. And males that would take care of the male patients.
Female patient.
But we did both, but there were some treatments that maybe the male would have to do with that. Yes.
How many did you have to take care of?
Depends on the hospital, depends on the situation. I like to work afternoons. I preferred afternoons because on days there was too many things going on.
Yes.
So the girl thing is how many patients did you have?
Right. And on the afternoons you would have more patients than you would on days because you don't have as many treatments and everything on afternoons and that. When it first started and when I first was passing meds and that, they would have just the med nurse you wouldn't have the complete care of maybe 5 or 6 patients. You would have the whole floor, you would have the meds for, you would be the med tech and pass the meds to all of them.
But no treatment to be done. Somebody else does the treatment?
It depends. Sometimes you would have to do, you know, a treatment nurse. You would have a treatment nurse. If you were assigned maybe 6 or 7 patients, if I was working in the med surg floor and I had 6 or 7 patients, then I would take care of the treatment, the meds, and the care.
Did you ever make a med, like a med error or anything in your life?
Have I ever? Not that I know of. I've done a lot of, you know, been able to have a lot of different experiences, been able to, you know, like I said, that first day, you know, being in the delivery room and being able to have those experiences. They're exciting times in there, and also when you work in cardiac intensive care, I mean, you're not allowed to do a lot of those things in there. But sometimes as a nurse later, when you graduate and you've had experiences in that, and you're pulled to a different unit, you'll be expected to, you know, do some of those things that maybe you didn't have as much training for.
Because you was working, like how many patients the LPN have?
It varies. I've had some where I would, you know, they were short-staffed, and I would say, you know, I would be what they call a pool nurse. You work for a medical personnel pool or something, and they would say at one hospital they need you to work on this floor, on the orthopedic floor for afternoon shift, and a couple nurses didn't show up, so you had doubles, and I said, you can only do what you can do, and that's what you do, is take care of the most critical in that and do what you can do.
Okay. So if you could tell the students here today one thing to really focus on being an LPN, what would it be? If you could just focus on something that this is really important.
Observation. You're learning here, and when you go into a room and you see somebody laying in a bed and it's perspiring and it's not that warm in the room, you know, you're observant. You see that, the color, the skin, the observant thing that you looking at the visitor that's there, the interaction between the patient and the visitor, and the child that you're taking care of too. Observation, and you can see them walking down the hall, the gait, how they walk, and that. Observant.
To really use your observational skills, and that's probably one of the most important things to do in the Good. Does anyone else have any questions for Dorothy?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned in the past the men need to be taken for men and women taken for women. So what the staff experience told that come up with this change?
Well, there was the change that went from RN to LPN, and then the RNs were doing most of the charting, the medication, and then the LPNs were taking care of the hands-on care of the patient, and the nurses' aides were making the beds and supplying that. And there weren't men in the nursing profession until they're probably starting with in administration. They started in information. And then then we'd have to, maybe they had an orderly working in the emergency room. And so if we needed somebody to do a male catheterization, we'd call and see if the male orderly in the emergency room could come and help. And then men started going into the nursing profession and was able then to work on the floors and do some of the things. But it's still difficult for some female patients to have a male come in and have to, she has to have her bed bath and things. It is, yes. And so that change is still in transition for me.
Okay. I think I'm happy with that question.
Okay, if you were to do it again, I mean, did you ever have something that you wanted to do besides nursing, or was it nursing was the first thing on your mind you wanted to do when you had a child?
I have had such varied experiences in my 50 years of having 6 children, Cheryl being my oldest, and
I don't know if you caught that or not.
whoa.
My mom.
Now you can see. We can see the face, the hair on the face. Oh, we can see the face. Oh, now we can see. Oh,
the varied in those.
nice.
Cheryl being my oldest of 6 children and 17 grandchildren. And through the years, I have worked, as I've mentioned, those different hospitals, the different areas, and then also in the Teen Mother program. I've worked in doctors' offices, and I was a secretary at our church, and did a lot of, so many different areas that you can use your abilities as an LPN.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel like a teacher and you got your mother in the class.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
She feels good.
The mother wasn't in
That's
you
right.
already.
You're gonna know. I'm gonna
I have a question for you. Is your children want? Do you have one of your children wants to become a nurse?
I think one of my 11-year-old twins might become a doctor. Is what she's
Yeah,
talking about.
it's Mama was LPN. Her children have to be a doctor. You have to make it safe,
Yeah.
Same.
Okay, well let's give Dorothy a round of applause.
Oh, that's nice.
Very good. This picture was taken in 61. I was working in the newborn nursery.
Nursery, 1961.
Yeah, she was hard to raise 6 children.
When I was looking, I just came down from Michigan about a month ago to spend some time with Cheryl.
Oh, you don't live down?
No, I live in Michigan.
Welcome in.
Detroit, right?
Near Detroit, yes. Near Detroit, yes. But I brought my progress and my knowledge and skills and my grades. I brought them down to show Cheryl when she had her class. And then I also had my items a practical student needs to know about. And my unit quiz that I had. But, these are 50 years old.
Everything organized. Everything look good.
Thank you very much.
No. 60.
some 5 years.
Congratulations.